Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into a pretty urgent situation that happened recently in St. Paul, Minnesota. We're drawing on official statements, news reports, really trying to unpack what went down. Our goal here is to get a handle on this complex cyber attack against the city's infrastructure, see how they responded, and maybe what it tells us about the vulnerabilities cities like St. Paul face.
Yeah, and what's really striking here, this wasn't, just some server failing or a technical glitch. Mayor Melvin Carter was very clear. He said, and I'm quoting here, "This was a deliberate, coordinated digital attack carried out by a sophisticated external actor, intentionally and criminally targeting our city's information infrastructure."
Wow. Sophisticated external actor. That phrase alone says a lot.
It really does. Sets the stage. This wasn't random vandalism. It points towards something much more organized, and that definitely shaped the response we saw from the city and even the state.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. How did the city even realize they were under attack? What were the first signs?
Well, according to the city's own statements, their cybersecurity systems first picked up some suspicious activity on the network. That was on a Friday.
Okay, so they got an alert on Friday. What happens next? Does it escalate over the weekend?
It seems like things moved pretty fast. Yeah. By Monday, they took a really drastic step. As a defensive measure, basically to stop the bleeding, they fully shut down their information systems.
Fully shut down, like everything.
Seems like it, yeah. Pulling the plug entirely. That action alone tells you how severe they thought the threat was. And Jamie Waskilis, who's the director of the city's Office of Technology and Communications, didn't mince words. She said, "We are the victims of a serious crime."
Right, calling it a crime right off the bat. That definitely frames it.
Exactly. It signals this isn't just an IT problem. It's a criminal investigation territory.
Yeah.
For a city to shut down completely like that, it suggests something pretty aggressive was happening. Maybe ransomware. Maybe something aimed at just causing chaos.
So, shutting everything down sounds like, well, controlled chaos, maybe. But things didn't stop there, right? It sounds like this escalated pretty quickly beyond just the IT folks.
Oh, absolutely. It went high level very fast. So by Tuesday, the day after the shutdown, St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter declared a local state of emergency. That frees up resources, cuts through red tape.
Okay, state of emergency.
Yeah. And then the city also brought in 2 national cybersecurity firms. That's a big move. It shows they knew they needed outside, specialized expertise.
Right, not just relying on their internal team.
Exactly. And they activated their Emergency Operations Center, the EOC, standard procedure for major incidents, but it shows they're treating this like a natural disaster, a major fiscal event.
And then the state got involved too.
That's right. Almost simultaneously, Governor Tim Walz announced he'd activated the Minnesota National Guard to help out.
The National Guard for a cyber attack.
Yes, specifically at the city's request. And the governor's office gave a reason, citing that the magnitude and complexity of the cybersecurity incident have exceeded the city's response capacity.
Exceeded the city's response capacity. That phrase really jumps out. What does that actually mean on the ground? Are we talking about not enough people, not the right skills, or just the sheer sophistication of the attack?
It's likely a combination of things. City IT departments, even in a decent-sized city like St. Paul, they often have, let's say, tighter budgets and fewer highly specialized cyber defenders compared to, say, a Fortune 500 company or a federal agency.
Sure, that makes sense.
So when you're up against what they call a sophisticated external actor, and that could mean a state-sponsored group or a very organized cybercrime syndicate around, their tools, their techniques, their resources can just overwhelm a local team.
So it's less about the city's team being bad, more about the attacker being exceptionally good or well-resourced.
Exactly. It's about the scale and the nature of this specific attack, pushing beyond what a typical municipal setup is designed to handle day to day. They needed surge capacity, specialized forensic tools, maybe intelligence capabilities that Guard or federal agencies have.
And you mentioned federal agencies.
Yes, that's another layer. Several agencies, including the FBI, are now involved in the investigation. That underlines, again, this isn't just a technical issue, it's being treated as a significant criminal act with potentially broad implications.
Okay, so we have the state of emergency, national firms, the National Guard, the FBI. This is clearly a massive response. But let's bring it back down to the street level. For the average person living or working in St. Paul, what did all this actually mean? What stopped working?
Well, the impacts were pretty tangible and quite widespread. Think about all the ways you interact with the city digitally now.
Paying bills, permits, library website.
Exactly. Access to many online services was disrupted. Internal systems that city employees use were affected. So you likely saw delays. Maybe some services were just completely unavailable for a time. Specific examples mentioned were things like loss of Wi-Fi in city buildings. That alone can cripple productivity.
Oh, yeah.
Disruptions to the library system, maybe you couldn't check out books electronically or access their catalog properly. And network access for several internal city applications was suspended. That means city staff might have had trouble doing their jobs, maybe had to revert to paper forms for things.
Sounds incredibly disruptive, like a digital standstill for all auto functions. But my big question, and I imagine many people's, would be about emergency services. Did 911 go down?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And thankfully, Mayor Carter specifically confirmed that 911 services were working as normal. People could still call 911 and get help.
Okay, that's a huge relief.
Definitely. But he did add a caveat that there were back-end challenges.
Back-end challenge, what does that mean in practice?
It likely means that while the phone lines were open and calls were coming in, the systems that dispatchers used behind the scenes might have been affected. Things like computer-aided dispatch systems, maybe mapping tools, access to certain records.
So the dispatchers might have had a harder time managing the calls, maybe had to use manual backups?
Precisely. It could slow things down, make their job more difficult, rely on workarounds. But the critical path, someone calling 911 and getting a response, was maintained. That was obviously priority number one. And it's worth noting, the city also said at the time that the incident remains active and we continue to assess it in real time. So even when services started coming back, the recovery and investigation were clearly ongoing.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We've walked through how this sophisticated attack hit St. Paul, triggering this really significant multi-agency response, local emergency, outside experts, National Guard, FBI, and causing real, tangible disruptions for the city and its residents.
Yeah, and if you step back and look at the bigger picture here, this St. Paul incident really throws into sharp relief how incredibly dependent our modern cities are on their digital infrastructure. It shows how a determined, sophisticated attacker can, frankly, overwhelm even what might seem like pretty robust local defenses. It forces us to think about, are our cities prepared? What does preparedness even look like against these kinds of threats?
Right, it's a stark reminder.
Definitely. It highlights the vulnerabilities in these complex, interconnected systems that we all rely on every single day, often without thinking about it. And it underscores that the threat landscape is constantly shifting, constantly evolving.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about is this. We heard Mayor Carter describe this as a deliberate, coordinated digital attack. How ready are our own local communities, our cities, our essential services for something like that? And maybe more importantly, what's it actually going to take in terms of investment, planning, expertise to truly secure the critical digital foundations of our daily lives against attackers who are clearly growing more sophisticated and more brazen?